I'm Nathaniel Moran. I'm a United States Congressman. I graduated in 1998 with my MBA. In 1976, when I was almost 2 years old, my parents loaded up me and my three brothers from Arizona and drove across the country in a station wagon to come to East Texas to help start a Bible college. We got to explore, we got to run the county roads, we got to have freedom and independence, but during that time, my parents really instilled in me the need to serve other people. And so very early on, I knew that I needed to find a lifetime of service somehow in my community. My dad and my mom modeled that for us. In 1984, when I was in the 4th grade, Ronald Reagan was running for his second term in office. And my dad took me to some rallies, began to introduce me to national politics and worldwide events. And so I just began to follow and pursue that call in my life, that thing that I want to find for my kids, whatever their call is in this life. I want to help them find it and then help them pursue it with all their might. Juggling roles has always been something that I've enjoyed doing throughout my life. I've never just had one job or one responsibility. I've always looked for other ways to do it. But along the way, what we have to learn is that there is an order, there's a priority to the things that are important in our lives. Faith calling comes first, your family calling comes next, and your vocational calling comes after that. I say every day, get better spiritually, physically, emotionally, and academically. And if you will do that, then your trajectory will be on the right path. And it's really about trajectory in this life. It's not about where we start, but it's about where we're going. And that is all determined on our choices and whether or not we choose to be disciplined, whether or not we choose to work hard every day, whether or not we choose to serve other people every day, whether or not we choose a life of excellence instead of a life of average. My friends had mostly gone to Texas A&M, and I went down there and visited Texas A&M, and I knew immediately it was not for me. It wasn't the right fit for me, and my mom suggested, why don't you go out and see Lubbock and see Texas Tech? First time I ever drove onto the campus, I knew immediately that it was a place for me. I met with the professors and asked them about the degree programs and knew that I was going to get a great education from a degree program standpoint, but also knew that what I was going to get was specialized attention and individualized care from professors that really cared about me as a person, not just as a student and not just because I was paying tuition and fees. I had a business law professor, and I wish I could remember his name. He was a great lawyer from the local community who had come over just to teach business law. And he made a great example once in our spring semester about when you're not sure what the law says, he says, get out your ain't right meter. And he'd say, you know, that ain't right meter is going to guide you right. And he said, if you get on the test and you don't know what the law really says, you can't remember what the textbook says, just say, is it right or is it just ain't right? And he said, if it just ain't right, it's probably against the law. And as a practicing lawyer for 20 years, I told my clients that all the time, that listen, you know in your heart what's right and what's not right. And if it just ain't right, you shouldn't be doing it, and it's probably against the law. Another wonderful interaction I had with a professor, my finance professor, the only B that I made at Texas Tech was in finance. But here's how it went down, and I was so glad for this lesson. At the end of the semester, you know, in the late 90s, your grades got posted outside the class on paper, and everybody crowded around that paper to see what you got at the end of the semester. And I was really pleased when I crowded around there and I saw I had gotten an A in finance. I got home over the summer and got my official grade report in the mail, and it had a B on there. And so immediately I called my professor and I said, hey professor, you know, it was an A when you posted this before the semester was up. And I got home and I got my report card and it said a B. And he said, do you think you deserved an A in this class? And at that moment when he asked me that, I knew he was right. I did not deserve an A in the class. And we talked through it. He said, you know, there's certain things that I asked you to do this semester that an A student would have done, and you didn't do that. And I said, you're right, professor, I didn't do that, and I don't deserve an A. And I took my B, and more than that, I took the lesson that if you're gonna get an A in this life, you have to work hard. To be a person of excellence, you have to give effort of excellence. The only reason I'm sitting in Congress today is because at some point in my life, I chose to set aside my vocational calling to be in elected service. We were in Tyler, where I was practicing law, was a partner, things were going great. I was on the right trajectory for my vocation. But my son's hearing loss really needed us to move to Houston to give him the ability to learn how to talk. But what that meant was giving up my city council seat overnight and giving up my law practice in Tyler, which I had built for several years. But because I was willing to do that, years later, after we had gotten down there and he'd gone from not talking at all to being able to talk in full sentences, totally miraculous, we moved back to Tyler when that schooling was over. They had a vacancy at the county judge level, and they came to me and said, we need somebody that the community trusts, that will put values first and not politics first. And they said, we've seen you do that when you're on the city council and you gave that up to go to Houston for your son. And as a result of that, they appointed me as the county judge, and 6 years later, then I had the opportunity from that platform to run for Congress. So had it not been for giving up that vocational service, I never would have gotten back to the place where I could actually fulfill my calling. Well, I've got a couple favorite tech traditions, but my favorite one during the academic year is Carol of the Lights. I always loved going out there. I met my wife at Texas Tech. She's an education major, graduated in 1999. And so, of course, when we were dating, Carol of the Lights was a big one. I loved to sing, so does she. And so we loved to stand out there in the cold weather and to sing together and to hear the reverberation of all the students singing as well, reminding ourselves what's really important in this life. That community, the community you find at Texas Tech, and that bond that you have together in red and black, and that's just wonderful. I must also say I'm a major Red Raider football fan, of course. Was there during the days of Byron Hanspard, and my wife and I wouldn't miss a game while we were together at Texas Tech. And she's a great football fan too, which is fantastic, because that means that one of our rooms in our house is decorated with Texas Tech memorabilia. I'm so grateful for my time at Texas Tech. Those 6 years in Lubbock were so shaping to me about who I would become, what kind of a person I would become, not just from an academic standpoint, but from a value standpoint. And I give benefit to, and I give credit to my professors there at Texas Tech, who led me down a path to understand how to apply the things that I was learning in class in a useful way in this life. And I'll be forever grateful for my experience there. I'll be forever grateful for every one of my experiences. And I can say without hesitation, long live the Matadors.